Chapter 3. Sally arrived home with her assorted bags and boxes and promptly burst into tears in the kitchen. Her mother, Patricia, swept her into her arms, plunked her down at the table, and handed her a clean white cotton hanky. No tissue for her. Whatever is the matter, my darling girl? She asked. Oh, nothing, Mum. I am just being stupid and dramatic. Sally hesitated before blowing her nose on the virgin square of crisp cotton. It's just everything is going to change, and I'm scared and excited all at the same time, and coming home just makes me realize how much I will miss you all. Sally's parents lived in Cheltenham in an old Victorian terrace house. Patricia Thomas had always yearned for one of the Georgian houses in the city, but knew it would have to remain a pipe dream. Her husband Douglas was a teacher and a part-time collector of antiques, and unless he suddenly discovered a masterpiece in an attic somewhere, they were never going to be able to afford such a property. Patricia had studied at the Slade School of Art in Bloomsbury in the 1950s and had actually been rather good. When she married Douglas Thomas in 1950, she was still studying in her final year of the Slade, at the Slade. She had met him at one of the notorious Chelsea Art Club balls. Douglas was taking his finals in history at Oxford, but hoping to become an art teacher in one of the big public schools. He was a very confident young man, veering on the arrogant, and saw teaching as a means to express himself in ways he could not have achieved as an artist. Firstly, because he did not have the talent, and secondly, because his parents had refused to let him go to art school. Patricia thought him the most handsomest man she had ever set eyes on, and as they danced the night away, she fell madly, wonderfully, completely in love with him. Douglas was pleased and flattered. After all, she was beautiful, and someone who would complement his image perfectly. The pair had spent the summer in passionate embrace, with wild parties at the art clubs by night and picnic beside the Serpentine by day. Douglas took his young love to Oxford and showed her off to all and sundry. By the end of the summer, they had announced their engagement, and life changed very dramatically for the young couple. Douglas had secured a teaching post at Stowe, a very prestigious public school in Buckinghamshire. He had been offered a small cottage in the grounds, and the newlywed couple set up home. All hopes Patricia may have had of a life as a carefree artist floated out of the tiny lattice window of the damp cottage in which she was now a prisoner. She was alone for long hours of the day while her husband taught privileged but mostly untalented boys how to wield a paintbrush. For most of the class, it was a period when they could play up, chat, and tell dirty jokes. Douglas very soon became disenchanted with the notion of his special calling as a teacher. His power was almost non-existent, and he soon turned his frustration onto his wife. Oh, they were still madly in love, and Patricia did everything in her power to make life easy and smooth for her darling husband, but he would often be quite patronizing and cold towards her. Slowly, over the coming years, she learned to ignore his jibes about her intellect and abilities. She would laugh delightfully in front of guests as he berated her for some tiny misdemeanor or other, and he would eventually step down from his high horse and wallow in her adoration. It was a strange marriage, but it somehow worked. They spent the school holidays travelling around Europe, and Patricia was in her element then, giving Douglas endless sermons on the history of art. She became his part-time researcher, doing most of his homework for him. He would always return from one of their trips abroad full of information for his classes and presenting the students with realms of slides and photos. He became quite renowned for his out-of-hours devotion to duty. Obviously, Patricia had no idea just how useful she was to her husband. It was a mutually agreeable arrangement, though, because Patricia loved feeling superior in some small way to her gorgeous, lovely husband, who was so bright and witty. In turn, Douglas was more than happy to praise his eager young wife and accept all the teaching she threw at him, while enjoying the respect and attention from his pupils and peers. The couple had a good life in many ways, and it was a few years before the idea of children entered their togetherness. Patricia was almost ambivalent to the idea. She was quite happy playing muse, mistress, and even mother to her darling husband Douglas. However, decided the time was approaching when they should try for a family. 2 years later, in 1962, Sally was born, and 2 years after that, her sister Dora arrived. They were both dear little girls, and Douglas loved them. In fact, he thrived. Surrounded by all the female adoration, he gained a good reputation at Stowe and was eventually headhunted and moved to Cheltenham Ladies' College as head of department. He loved his job and revelled in the attention from his young female students, feeling godlike as he strode down the corridors, acknowledging the admiring looks from the girls. He also had more time to spare and began to collect and deal in fine art. Patricia surprised herself and the family by completely falling in love with her babies. They filled every minute of her life. She gloried in their growth and grasped every tiny morsel of her daughter's love. She was a wonderful mother and worked tirelessly to make their home a warm and wonderful place. However, as the girls grew up and the need of her grew less, so Patricia's own need for self-esteem returned. Douglas was, as ever, completely self-absorbed, and although he appreciated how lucky he was to have such a seemingly perfect family, it never occurred to him that he should contribute anything more to the general well-being of his wife and daughters. Patricia yearned for another kind of self-fulfillment. There was a part of her that felt empty and unused. She would sometimes creep away when the children were asleep, taking her paint and easel outside, weather permitting, and she would sit and paint her frustrations away. Other times she grabbed a sketchbook and pencil or charcoal, and she watched the girls in the garden or playing in their front room. She would draw them quickly and deftly, capturing precious moments. She loved her family with all her heart, but her soul was in her art. Very rarely did she dare to imagine what life might have been like if she hadn't married so young and devoted her energies to her family. She sometimes thought that Douglas was so much luckier to have been born a man. He had another life outside the family. She knew he thrived on female attention, and she sometimes allowed a moment of doubt to creep into her thoughts when he did not come home till very late. She never questioned him. That would have been asking for trouble in any way. She didn't want to know the answer. As long as he came home to her and still made love to her, she was able to cope. She had known only her husband sexually, having been a virgin when they met. He had been a very good and practiced lover. Well, that was how it should be in her view. Men were very different from animals, and boys should be boys, wouldn't they? As the girls matured and Patricia had more time of her own, she decided to look for a part-time job as a teacher. Douglas found this highly amusing. Dear God, Patricia, darling, what could you possibly teach anyone? You haven't painted for 15 years. Who would have you, my sweet? Much to Patricia's delight and Douglas' amazement, the local council took her on to teach adult art classes. She proved a great success, and the job gave her a whole new take on life. She started to make new friends, and while Douglas was busy at the college, Patricia now had a social life of her own. She ignored her husband's little digs and put-downs and filled her days with laughter and colour. She had hoped one of her daughters might have inherited her artistic talents, but it was not to be. Although when Sally announced she was going to be an actress, Patricia felt a tinge of excitement. Dora, who was 2 years younger, had just left school, was much more practical, and had applied to do business studies at uni. Both girls had the security of a stable home background, which gave them a certain amount of confidence with which to face life. Sally was sometimes critical of her father's rather patronizing attitude to his wife, and would encourage her mother to answer back. Oh, Sally dear, that is just his way. He doesn't mean anything by it. I just ignore it. But Mum, he has no right to put you down like he does. Where would he be without you? Patricia would laugh, her girlish laugh, toss her hair, and gaily announce, oh, probably with some gorgeous woman with lots of money. She always tried to sound nonchalant. But deep in her heart, she had always feared the day Douglas would announce he was leaving. Once the girls no longer needed her attention full time, her sole concern was keeping her husband happy. As she had grown older, she knew that he wanted her to be the gay young thing he had danced with all those years ago. She kept her hair long and dyed it regularly to keep the grey at bay. She had retained her figure and knew she was attractive. Sometimes one of her pupils would make advance towards her, and she would laugh it off with a rebuke. Don't be silly, I'm very happily married to the man of my dreams. Patricia really did think that, and Douglas had no idea just how fortunate he was to have her. Sally always felt she was a bit of a disappointment to her parents. Her mother was very glamorous in her way, but a bit too girly for her liking. Certainly Sally had inherited none of that coquettishness. She was a good cross of her mother and father, and had a strong, attractive feature, but she could not be described as beautiful. Her tutors at drama school had told her she would never play the young heroine, and she was just not pretty enough. She had initially been upset, but common sense had soon taken over, and Sally knew that, especially on stage, a good actress could convince an audience that she was beautiful. It almost made her feel more confident, knowing she did not have to rely on her looks and would never have to worry about getting old. She would always be able to play the interesting characters until she fell off the twig. Dora was probably better looking than her, but that was fine. There was no jealousy between the girls, and they had always been very close. Dora managed their father brilliantly and could put him in a good mood with a click of her fingers. While she was still living at home, Dora was a good foil for him, and their mother did not have to worry about his dark moods. Sally had been looking forward to spending time with them all over the month of August. Now here she was feeling sorry for herself. She got up and gave her mother a big hug, saying, "I am so stupid, really. I'm just so happy to be home. Come on, let's get these boxes sorted out, and then we can go and have a large glass of wine with Dad." The two women attacked the bags, sorted the rubbish from the washing and from the keep forever memorabilia that gathers through the 3 years of college. It was a gorgeous summer day, and all the windows were open. The sweet perfume of honeysuckle and mown grass wafted through the house, along with the call of a blackbird above the constant hum of buzzing bees. Sally was always caught unaware by the clarity of these sounds compared to London, where everything was lost in the general drumming of city noise, sliced through which with the occasional siren. Here in her parents' loving home, surrounded by trees and blue sky, she revelled in a sense of complete well-being. It gave her strength. "Come on, darling. Stop daydreaming and get a move on," her mother urged. "It's nearly lunchtime and your dad will be expecting a visit." She gathered all the bags ready to go and went to fetch the car keys, adding, "We can celebrate having our daughter home for the summer." Chapter 4. There was a letter from Crew Theatre waiting for Sally the next morning. It contained a dig list and reminded that under the AMSR standard contract issued by Equity, the Actors Union, the artiste, Sally in this case, was obliged to provide an evening dress for the season and to use her own clothes as when required. The management was only obliged to provide period costumes. "Oh my God," she gasped over her boiled eggs and soldiers. "I have to wear my own clothes." "What do you mean?" asked Dora. "What does the letter say?" She grabbed it from her sister and read the instructions issued therein. Then, "My God, Sally, there isn't a play written that could possibly include your wardrobe," she said, and burst out laughing. "Shut up, Dora. What do you mean by that? There is nothing wrong with the way I dress, is there?" Dora laughed even louder, and Patricia came to the kitchen to find out what all the fuss was about. "Mum, tell Sally what is wrong with her dress sense." "Please, can one even begin to describe the lack of sartorial savvy? Dora, please stop cackling. It is very unbecoming. What is the problem here?" "I have a letter from the theatre," explained Sally, "telling me I have to provide my own clothes except when period costume is required, and I have to take an evening dress. I don't own a dress, never mind an evening one," she wailed. "Oh dear," sympathized her mother. "I do see your problem, Dora. Will you stop giggling? Sally dresses very individually, I will grant you, but she is not completely without taste." This response drew further sniggers from Dora. "Oh, shut up, Dora," snapped Sally. "The joke wears thin, methinks. So what am I going to do?" "Well, we will have to sort you out. There is a fantastic vintage clothes shop in Cheltenham, and lots of jumble sales we can rummage through. If the worst comes to worst, Dora can make you an evening dress, can't you, dear?" Patricia turned to her youngest daughter. "Let's make a list of useful clothes you might need in a season. Do you have any idea what plays they're going to do? That would help enormously." Dora jumped up from the table, saying, "Listen, sis, we can have a great time putting your wardrobe together. We will turn you into a style icon. Don't you worry." "I don't want to be a style icon, thank you very much," responded Sally rather grumpily. "I am an actress, we know, but there is no reason why you can't be a smartly dressed actress. Come on, let's get down the town and do a bit of shopping." Dora was practically out of the front door. Patricia stopped her. "Hold on, darling, just a moment." She went out of the kitchen and across the hall to the study and came back 2 minutes later with her purse. "I want to give you both a little something to spend." She handed them both cash. The girls protested, but she went, "I don't often get the chance to spoil you, and now seems a good time as ever. I actually sold a painting last month, and I have another commission. So please let me share my good fortune with my beautiful daughters. And listen, if you can't find an evening dress, Sally, get a pattern, and Dora will make it for you. Dora and I will make it for you. Dora knows how to buy gorgeous material, don't you, darling?" "Oh, yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Mum. This is fantastic of you. Oh, my God, I am so excited. Shopping and with some money for a change." And she was off once more towards the front door. Sally picked up her bag and started to follow, then stopped and gave her mother a big hug. "Thank you so much for this. I will make you proud." "Go on. You have made me proud already." Patricia kissed her and shooed her off. "Now we get going, or your sister will grab all the best buys first." The girls made straight for the vintage clothes shop. Dora knew the owner, Jackie, who was the mother of a girl who had been at school with. Jack was very interested to hear all about Sally's job in the theatre. Please take my number in case you need anything later in the season, she said to Sally. Maybe the wardrobe department and crew will be interested in some of my stock. Do you know what plays you are doing yet? No, not yet, but I can certainly let you know, said Sally. Dora was already going through the rail of dresses. Oh, look, this is beautiful, Sal, and will really suit you. Come on, try it on. The girls spent the best part of half an hour trying on the dresses until poor Sally was bug-eyed. I can't remember what I have tried on, she cried. It is exhausting. Dora had narrowed the choice down to two dresses. One was a 1950s satin dress, very fitted at the waist with a low neckline and off the shoulder. The other with a simple satin dress cut on the bias. So very flattering for the figure and rather sexy. It was black. This one needs some sparkly jewelry to set it off, announced Dora, holding the black satin up. I have no idea which one to choose, sighed Sally, who had really had enough and was thinking about a glass of wine and some shepherd's pie in the pub. Jackie suggested they took both. Well, agreed Dora, this is the obvious answer, but I don't think the budget will stretch that far. Jackie checked the tickets on both dresses and said, Look, why don't you buy the satin one and I'll give you a 25% discount and I'll let you have the other dress on loan. So take it up to crew with you, and if you decide you can use it, we will renegotiate. Oh, that would be fantastic, said Sally. If you are really sure, and when Jackie nodded her assent, thank you so much. Actually, it would be very useful for crew because we might need some period stuff and we could liaise with you. This is brilliant, Jackie. The girls were on high as they left the shop and danced down the street. How amazing is that, said Dora. Come on, we will celebrate with a quick glass of wine in the wine bar, then onto the more mundane attire like trousers and tops. I want to take you to the terrific boutique that is opened recently. They have really useful stuff and it is cheap. With that, she was off across the street, skipping towards the wine bar, followed by an equally excited Sally clutching her bag of goodies in her hand. By the end of the day, the sisters returned home worn out. They flopped down on the sofa, surrounded by bags. Patricia made them a cup of tea and then sat down and waited for the fashion parade to begin. Dora took charge and explained how about the two evening dresses. Much against the will, Sally made one last effort and modelled them for her mother. Oh, yes, girls, you have done well. They are both beautiful and so different. I remember having a dress like this for one of the Chelsea outballs, Patricia said softly, remembering the joy of dancing all night and feeling so beautiful in her dress. The 50s one is gorgeous. Sally has a very flattering neckline because it shows off one's shoulders as well as a bit of bosom. Sally laughed at her mother's rather coy choice of words for the old cleavage. Bosom? Oh, mother, that is so ladylike, she chortled. Well, I suppose it is, but it was what we called it in my day. Now, the black dress is very sexy, isn't it? Let's hope the theatre does some Noel Coward, and then you will have the perfect outfit. It needs some jewelry, though, doesn't it? Dora chipped in. Eventually, exactly what I said. We should go jumble sale hunting on Saturday and pick up a bit of sparkle. Good idea, agreed Patricia. Now show me what else you have brought, please. Sally was secretly thrilled that her sister had sorted out her wardrobe for her. She knew she had no real flair and was not at all interested in fashion. She lived in a couple of pairs of trousers, a few shirts and jumpers, and a standard navy jacket for every occasion. Dora had found her some great fitting jeans and some lovely suede boots to go with them, but also handy when it got cold. When it gets cold, with some thick tights and short skirt, Dora had suggested. There was a very useful 3/4 length wool jacket which looked great over t-shirts, and also a couple of long tops which just covered the bum and was simply yet attractive. Dora was able to mix and match and put several outfits together for Sally with ease. I don't know how you're able to see those things so easily, remarked Sally. Thank you, Dora. You really have been an enormous help. Dora turned to face her and said in a deliberately casual tone, Sally, I was thinking that maybe I could see if there was a job going in the wardrobe at crew. I would really love to come and learn all about costumes and design. I have already applied for a uni next autumn to do business studies, and rather than take a gap year, it would be great to actually earn some money and learn other stuff, you know. Who can tell, I might even decide to be a designer instead of an entrepreneur. Shall I telephone and see what the state of play is, do you think? Dora sighed happily. It would just be so great if we could work together and get a flat or something, wouldn't it? Sally felt a flicker of guilt. It would be lovely to have Dora with her, but then again, there was a part of her that wanted to have this adventure by herself. It was her first real job, and there would be so much to learn. She wanted it to be her experience, her own personal journey. Dora was so different from her. She was extroverted and outgoing for anything. Sally sometimes felt outshone by her sisters, Jo DeVere, but there was so but that was so selfish of her. How mealy-mouthed can I be? She rebuked herself. Yes, she replied aloud. Why not ring them and see what they say? As it happened, things worked out rather well. Giles Longfellow, PA, Susan Chambers explained to Dora that there was a resident wardrobe mistress called Miss Edna Weaver who lived locally in Crewe. However, Giles had decided that he needed someone younger for this season, so he had hired a lady called Gwendolyn Stewart who would do most of the work, while Edna would come in twice a week to supervise. It would have been very difficult for Giles to sack Edna as she was a stalwart of the theatre, so he was treading very softly. It had been suggested that for the beginning of the season, things should be left to Edna and Gwendolyn to organise, and then perhaps a few weeks later there might be a vacancy for assistant. Would it be possible for Dora to hang on and join later? Dora was thrilled, and as far as Sally was concerned, it was perfect because it gave her a chance to establish herself in the company and find her feet. She would be able to sort out her living arrangements with an eye to being able to offer Dora a home there eventually, but it would be her place. She needed to feel secure in herself and her work before her sister came and joined her. This way it was her territory. Sally had thought hard about this and decided it was natural to feel territorial. She and Dora were close and rarely argued, but they had lived together since school and certainly never worked together in such a closed environment. Sally knew from her drama school days just how insular actors could be. They were very cliquey and could make outsiders feel very uncomfortable. She would obviously ensure that Dora did not feel like an outsider, but she could only do that successfully if she was in control of her own surroundings. By the time Dora arrived, Sally hoped she would be queen of all she surveyed. Thanks for listening.